G'day, I'm Paul. So with so many of us about to go away over the holidays on a long road trip, I wanted to figure out how you can save money. And I want to do a stack of experiments today to figure that out. This video is part of a series that is funded by Ampol, which is why you're going to see the promotional tag. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this video, you can use the time codes that are on the screen. Or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you can find out every single time we do some fun experiments. Okay, so my weapon of choice for this video is the Toyota Hilux. It is the GR Sport. We're going to be doing all of the testing here at the Proving Ground, and I just want to run through a few things that you can change and a few small, simple things that you can change if you're going to go on a road trip that could end up saving you some money on fuel in the long run, and they're good strategies to keep in mind. This morning we filled up the car with Ampol Amplify Premium Diesel. So according to Ampol, Amplify Premium Diesel is a unique formulation that helps restore and maintain fuel injector cleanliness, and they also say through regular use it can protect your engine and provide up to 100% power restoration, and they've done a stack of independent testing as well to verify those claims. So what experiments are we going to be doing? So the age-old one, air conditioning versus no air conditioning. When I was a kid, the air conditioning was winding the windows down, so I want to figure out whether it is more efficient to wind the windows down or use the air conditioning. I want to figure out how much fuel you're going to save if you overinflate or underinflate your tyres compared to the placard. I also want to figure out if you're a tradie, you've got tools in the tray, how much fuel are you going to save if you take 500 kilos of weight out of your vehicle? And that could be things like tools and other bits and bobs that you have laying around in the vehicle in the longer run. My wife has like a 10 kilo weight that's been sitting in the back of our car for ages. And I blame her, I could easily bring it inside myself, but it's been there for ages. I want to figure out how much this stuff is actually chewing into your fuel bill. And then also the eco and the power buttons, do they actually make any difference at all to your fuel consumption? That is all the stuff we want to figure out today. So let's hop in the car, let's get started. We're going to do all of it here on the circular bowl. So it's just under 5 kilometers long. It's basically uniform turns. It's just the perfect place to do this as scientifically as possible without having to install meters, drain fuel and all that sort of stuff. We are using just the trip computer here on the vehicle to give us the readings that we need. So it'll be all based on this, and if there is sort of an error in here, at least the error will be continued across all of the testing. So we're going to do each of these tests at 2 speeds, 60 and 100 k's an hour. So kick off our first test here at 60 k's an hour. This is going to give us a baseline reading of what the vehicle is doing with air conditioning running. So what I'm going to do here through all of the testing, unless the air conditioning is to be switched off, I'm going to be running it at 23 degrees in auto mode. It's currently 19 degrees outside. It's overcast, so it's unlikely that the sun is going to change all that much between these tests as we run them over the next sort of hour or so. Let's get our lap done at 60, get a baseline, then 100, and then we'll see how we go. So we're back here in the studio. I'm going to be recapping results as we go. So for our baseline test, where the air conditioning was set on auto at 23 degrees, we ended up with a 60 kilometre an hour average fuel economy of 4.9 litres per 100 k's, and then at 100 kilometres an hour, that was 8.1 litres per 100 k's. So this is the baseline that we're going to be using for all of our tests as we go. First up, eco and power mode. Does it actually make a difference? Now what we're going to do is set this to eco mode, and I know a lot of people see these buttons, eco and power, and they wonder, do they actually work? So let's find out. I've got that at 60 k's an hour. I'm going to put that into eco mode, reset our economy. So we're going to use our baseline as a comparison for eco and power to see if it makes any difference. The background between eco and power is these buttons really don't do much when it comes to maximum throttle. So in both eco and power mode, if I mash the throttle, it still goes all the way through to 100%. What they do though is adjust the throttle map. So that means if I push the pedal halfway down, in eco mode, it's going to tell the car that I only really want, let's say 30% pedal pressure. Whereas in power mode, it's going to tell the car I want 70%. So it actually feels like it's faster and more powerful, but it's not actually making any difference. In some cars though, the eco mode can dull the air conditioning to throttle it back a bit and save you on fuel or electricity if you're in an electric vehicle. So let's see if it makes any difference here in the Hilux. Okay, now 100 k's an hour. Now power mode. So we'll flick that over there. Cruise control is set at 60. We'll give that a reset. See if that makes any difference at all. Look, in theory, it shouldn't make any difference at all. If this car doesn't actually reduce air conditioning intensity and all of those energy consuming items when you hit the eco mode, it's not going to make any difference here when we're driving along and in cruise control. So that's why some of these buttons are so deceptive, but we'll see. I'm doing 60 k's an hour now in power mode. Let's see what happens when we look at the results at the end. Okay, so these results were interesting. Both eco and power mode used more than our baseline. So I think this is probably one of those inconsistencies with this type of testing, because throughout the day, the temperature changed ever so slightly, and it could have just been that we had more wind or there was a slight change in temperature that caused it to go up. But we do have a comparison there between eco and power mode, and it shows you that both of them don't make any difference when it comes to saving fuel while you're driving at a constant speed. Now, where this will vary though is in and around the city. As I mentioned when we were actually doing the testing, the throttle response is different when you're driving in and around the city in eco and power mode. So it will give you that feeling of either more throttle response or less throttle response. And then obviously if you keep using the throttle at the same level, you're gonna end up using more fuel in power mode because it is actually forcing the car to work harder. But at constant speed, those two modes make absolutely no difference. Now, what about when you're hot in the car? Do you turn the air conditioning off and stick the windows down? Leave the air conditioning on? What happens when it's cold? Do you crank the heater? Let's find out exactly which one of these is the best way to go. Okay, so the results are interesting. Air conditioning off. I think we kind of knew this was going to happen. It ended up using less fuel at 60 kilometers an hour, but at 100 k's an hour, it didn't make enough of a difference for it to register there on the trip computer. So 60 kilometers an hour, it was 4.7 litres per 100 k's, so slightly less than our baseline figure. And then at 100 k's an hour, it was 8.1, which was the same as our baseline figure. But I suspect that was just due to the accuracy of the trip computer. It should have used ever so slightly less fuel at 100 k's an hour with the air conditioner off. What about your windows down? Now, this was interesting as well. With just the driver's window down, fuel economy went in the wrong direction. So we ended up using 5.3 at 60 k's an hour and 8.6 at 100 k's an hour. So both significantly higher than our figures at the base level. So my theory on this is that you're getting a whole lot more turbulence when you have just one window down. That's causing more resistance in the car, you're having to drive the car harder, and then cruise control is having to work a little bit harder to keep up. But it was then further interesting when we dropped all windows down. Fuel economy was actually better than it was with just the driver's window down. So the theory we're throwing around the office here is that when you do have all the windows down, the air can move around a little bit freer, whereas when it's just one window down, it gets trapped a little bit. But you can see there with those two results that it was actually more efficient to put all your windows down instead of just the driver's window down. But both of those weren't as efficient as just switching your air conditioner off. And then what happens if it's a really hot day and you crank the AC to the max? Well, unsurprisingly, this ended up using a whole lot more fuel, 5.5 litres per 100 at 60 and 8.6 at 100 k's an hour. So it was equivalent at 100 k's an hour to having just the driver's window down. So that is something interesting there. And then heating ended up using less fuel than air conditioning max. So the heating element process there was a little bit more efficient than the air conditioning process, which is kind of the opposite to what you have in an electric vehicle where the air conditioner is slightly more efficient than running the heater. So if you are hot, it shows you that all you need to do is stick all your windows down. It will be slightly more efficient than running the air conditioner on max, but the most efficient way to go is just set your air conditioner to auto and 23 degrees. Now tyres, this is a really interesting one. So we ran 20 PSI and then 42 PSI and compared it to our baseline. So unsurprisingly, when you drop your tyre pressures down to 20 PSI, this was actually the most fuel that we consumed throughout the day. And it was actually more fuel than adding 500 kilos of weight into the car, which I'll explain in just a sec. So at 60 Ks an hour, 5.9 litres per 100 Ks. So you're using 1 litre more fuel every 100 kilometres at 60 Ks an hour, which is really surprising. And then at 100 Ks an hour, you're using almost 1 litre more fuel there. Increasing your tyre pressure, in theory, it should help economy, but in this instance, it actually didn't. So it helped at 60 Ks an hour. It was only slightly less efficient than running at a baseline, but at 100 Ks an hour, it actually was only slightly worse than running the tyres at 20 PSI. So there's a chance there we needed to go even higher with the tyre pressure to see real benefits, maybe 50 or 60 PSI, which is really pushing it to the limit of the tyre. Now, the one we've all been waiting for, 500 kilos of load. This is your tools in the back, all the excess crap you've left in your car. How much of a difference does it make? Well, it's about half a litre per 100 Ks at 60 Ks an hour. We ended up using 5.6. And then at 100 Ks an hour, again, it's about half a litre per 100 Ks at 8.6. Surprisingly though, it was running your tyres at 20 PSI that was even worse for it. So this has been an interesting test. I will call out, this is about as scientific as we could get without going down the path of measuring fuel independently or brimming the vehicle each time. It just wouldn't have been feasible to do it that way. So this is the most efficient way we could have done all of this testing without going to those extreme lengths. And I think it does show you there is some variability there in terms of the way you operate your vehicle, and you can actually save some fuel by thinking about the things that are in your vehicle or your tyre pressures, or even just the modes that you're running the car in terms of air conditioning and the driving modes as well. The other thing I'll point out as well is that according to Ampol, with their amplified diesel product, it is actually more efficient than a baseline diesel that they also sell. So it's worth keeping in mind that if you do want to get that efficiency out of your vehicle and to also clean the vehicle as well with this fuel, you should spend a little bit more on it as well. So there it is. Let us know what you thought about this test. Do you want us to do other sort of testing like this? Are there other topics that you're interested in? Thanks again to Ampol for helping us fund this test. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.